Aashika.
Hi, Harshit.
Yeah. Aashika, could you give us some significant insights on how do you develop a product roadmap?
Thank you, Harshit, for the question. So I'd like to start the answer by defining what is a product roadmap. So there are multiple features that need to be shipped. So but you need to prioritize the features in a certain manner. So product roadmap is nothing but prioritizing the features and dividing the features according to the timelines, like which feature would be shipped. So there are two big factors that define the product roadmap. First is what does the business want? The second, what does the customer want? So I'll start by giving the example for the first one. That is, what does a business want? So when I was working in Wisdom, we had a portfolio of 5 different categories that we were working on. But in that 5 categories, there were 2 categories in which our margins were very higher. So higher margin means more revenue for the company. So obviously the ultimate goal of any company is to make more and more money. So whatever features were falling in those 2 categories were prioritized over the other 2 features. That is how the product matters get prioritized on the business front. So the second factor is what does customer want? So the question that would be coming to your mind is, how do we know what does the customer want? So there are various methods of knowing that. First is the customer feedback that you get on your app in the Google Play Store. They write the reviews. So the wrong reviews or the negative reviews gives an insight about what needs to be improved. The other ways are sending out surveys. Like you send out survey on the dedicated emails or phone numbers in order to get the response of the customers. And the third is obviously asking the customer on the app, what did you like about the feature and what did you dislike about the feature? So here also I'd like to give a small example. On the Play Store, we got a lot of negative reviews regarding the customer support. So there was a lot of demand that there is no dedicated customer support. How do we reach out to the people when we have any queries? So that is how we got to know that there is a strong requirement for a dedicated customer support. So that is how we define our product roadmap. So we prioritize customer roadmap because that would enhance the customer experience for us. So that is what are the 2 things that define the product roadmap. One is the business requirement and second is the customer requirement. I hope that answers your question, Harshit.
Aashika, my next question to you is, what is the difference between having an end-to-end in-house product versus integrating it with a third party?
Thank you, Harshit, for the question. So firstly, I would like to clear the difference between having an end-to-end product versus integrating between third parties. So it means when you say end-to-end product, it means that the entire customer journey is on your app or your platform. When you say integrating with third party, it means half of the journey is on your platform and the other half is on the third party platform. So obviously, breaking the journey is never a choice for any product owner. This is usually done when either company doesn't have the capability of building the end-to-end journey, or they do not have the time to build the end-to-end journey. So I like to divide the answer into the phases in order to give you an idea about what's the difference. Firstly, when you partner with any third party, you do not have an end-to-end control over the product. You have to follow the compliances which are given by the third party in terms of the design, in terms of the tech capability, in terms of the data. You do not have the complete control or the ownership. So I'd like to give an example. So we were having an insurance product with a third party. So they had a regulation that you have to put the TNC in every page of the journey. Like you have to put the hyperlink of TNC in every page. On the other hand, if we would have done it on our platform, we would have never done that. But we had to obey because that was a part of the contract. Secondly, there is a lot of to and fro in the information. Like you have the meetings, so then you convey your requirements. Then after some time, you get the requirements. So obviously there is a delay. there is a delay because there is a lot of to and fro of the information. But when you talk about the complete timeline, obviously it is reduced because you're doing just a part of the journey. But for that particular part, the time is increased. So this is again one of the difference. The third difference is you do not get the real-time data. So you do not know exactly what is happening in the journey on the real-time basis because half of the data comes from the third party. Whatever journey is performed on the third party platforms, the data comes from the third party, not on the real-time basis. This is specifically a problem when the last part of the journey is on the third party because you do not know on real-time basis the number of users that have completed the journey. Then in terms of the design, you have to follow the design guidelines which are set by the third party. You cannot do according to your whims and fancies. You have to follow the structure that is in agreement with both you as well as the third party. Secondly, you need to have a very strong tech capabilities because there is a lot of information that will be passed from your platform to the third party and vice versa. So whenever you are integrating with the third party, you need to have a very high tech capability. So yeah, these are some of the differences when you have a product in-house versus when you have a product in a partnership with the third party. I hope that answers your question.
So Aashika, my next question to you is, how does an organization evolves as the product evolves over the time?
Thank you, Harshit, for the question. Well, this is a very interesting question. So not only the product has its MVP, but even a product organization has its MVP. So when an organization starts with a new product, it starts with the minimum team members, minimum resources, minimum tech capabilities, and minimum budget. This is essentially done in order to reduce the risk associated. So once they test the hypothesis and they find out that the customers are liking the product, they do the enhancements in that particular product by adding the more members, by increasing the tech capability and increasing the budget as well. So once that particular category or the particular segment is mature, they usually start adding more categories and segment to it. But again, the other categories which are being added are not added in full-fledged. They are added in its MVP version. They are added in the whatever the basic minimum features are required with minimum feature tech capabilities, with minimum resources, and minimum other things that are required. Now, there are two possibilities over here that the other categories which are being added may be liked by the customers and may be disliked by the customers. So if that particular category is disliked by the customer, then that is removed from the segment. Whatever resources were they are either reallocated or in the different segments or are added in the initial category as well. And whatever categories are liked by the customers, they also mature over the time. More resources are added, their tech capabilities are increased, their budget is increased, and that is how the organizations evolve over the time.
So Aashika, my next question to you is, how do you monitor performance and success of any particular product?
Okay. Thank you, Harshit, for the question. Well, tracking the performance of the feature is the most important and the critical part of the product lifecycle. There are usually two ways in which they track the success of the product. The first one is how our metrics are doing, and the second one is what is the customer's likeliness for that particular feature or the product. So I like to start by giving a little description of the first part. So at the very start, when you're planning out your product, you define certain metrics in order to track and you define certain numbers against it. Like if my revenue is X numbers, then it means my feature is performing good. This you have thought at the very start. So if the current numbers or after the product is live, the numbers are in alignment with what you have thought, that means that your feature or the product is performing good. Usually a sheet is maintained in which there is a track record of what you have thought and what the real numbers are. So if the ratios of the real numbers versus what you have thought is almost equal to the one, it means that your feature is performing well. So this is one way of in which how we track the success of the feature. But it is not necessary that if your numbers are good, that means your feature is performing very well or your feature is very good. It may be simply because the customers may not have any other alternative for that particular particular problem or that particular cause. So the another way is by getting a customer feedback. So there are several ways in which we get the customer feedback. One of the most important one is the reviews which we get on the Play Store. So if the reviews are good or if the rating of your app is above 4 or 4.5, it means that your product is performing well. Also, as I mentioned, that we roll out certain surveys. So the feedback or the answers of the survey are an indicator of what is the customer's thought about your particular feature, about that particular feature. And obviously, there are certain scales or the certain feedbacks which we implement in the app itself in order to see the response of the customer. So these are the two things in which we define the success of the product or the feature.